So we talked about Apple.
Yeah.
And Apple eventually, there's tons of people that would argue that they've already kind of sold out or whatever. I think there's also people that argue that they have stuck pretty close, but they already sold out in the 80s. In the 1980s,
and then Steve
came back and said, "Hey, this is
simplified.
why we did this in the first place."
Yep.
Do you think that those are two things that can coexist, or do you is Patagonia like as big as it gets?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure there's people out there that have a negative take on Patagonia. I don't know. I haven't talked to them recently, but I'm sure there's some people out there. I'm sure there's good and bad with everything. But in terms of a company operating within a system and doing something really well and having a very strict set of values that they seem to hold to,
right,
over anything else, especially profit, do you think there's a level where you outgrow moral responsibility? Do you think it just money corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely? Like, what do you think? Like, if you got to 500,000 subscribers because you made 3 videos where you're, I teach homeless people how to edit.
Right? Yeah. Yes, exactly.
What? I just want to explore that a little bit. There's no direct question there, but I think you kind of have I saw some.
I mean, I think whether it's a company, organization, an individual, these are the forces that are constantly at play in our lives. And, you're trying to, at least I am, try to deploy self-awareness, because you are going to have the culture of the world around you, America as a business, and the things that we see on social media and print and magazines, all the stuff that we are being sold the American dream, go buy a house, all this stuff. Like you're just being assaulted with companies and people in positions of power, that, you drink more milk, America needs to support the dairy farmers. So let's make a big ad campaign, Got Milk, to get people to buy more milk, and, those influences. So trying to deploy self-awareness and go, what forces are pulling me in one direction or another, and what's the truth behind that? Am I succumbing to pressure to be successful and have my retirement all situated, to have, a Ford Mach-E in my driveway next to a Honda Accord, like, 'cause that indicates amongst my peers that I'm doing well.
Yeah.
And if I feel like that pressure to obtain that is there, am I going to then make my content more of the McDonald's method to try to achieve those goals by making every video a 1 out of 10, figuring out what audiences are responding to with my content? Like we've talked about, I could do something on my channel that's like, a veteran editor tries to edit a YouTube video in a snowstorm, and the thumbnail is me sitting at a makeshift desk out in a field that's covered in snow.
Or I edit for 3 days straight.
Yeah, I'm gonna live stream. I'm gonna live edit on my live stream until I hit 50,000 subscribers, and if it takes me 47 days to do that, then so be it.
Yeah,
what I mean? No. So like if you can ask yourself, how are the forces in the world and our culture impressing upon you, and then making you consider certain ways of expressing yourself, or commerceifying your art, whatever. You have to have that conversation with yourself. What is making me do this? I made one video on my channel that was essentially a copy of another Final Cut Pro YouTuber's video, where he looked at a YouTube video from a big creator where he was working in Final Cut Pro and was missing a lot of key things. Yeah. And so he made a video that was essentially like, this person's editing wrong. Here are some tips to help that person out. that video took off. So I went, well, I can do a video
I gotta
like that
do
as
that.
well.
Yeah.
So Marquez Brownlee had a video where he showed his screen in Final Cut, and there were some things he was doing that was quote unquote wrong. Maybe not doing things as designed in Final Cut. And so I made a similar video, and of course that video took off. But then I felt
What are your
gross
thoughts on it now?
about what I did, because I just like saw the playbook of what another content creator had done that I thought was a really good idea. And I essentially copied that and did my version of it because I felt like I wanted those kinds of views too, or I wanted a 1 out of 10 video.
Yeah.
So I think, for me, it vacillates back and forth. Like I sometimes succumb to the pressures of vanity metrics or wanting my in-laws to see me as successful because I if they sum up what I do, like, okay, there's a 44-year-old guy who makes videos in his basement. Like, how are you actually supporting your family and, from a finance side, doing the things that you're supposed to do to have retirement and savings and college for your kids and all this stuff? So you always have those forces at play.
It had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the sunrise.